Welcome to So Booking Cool. It's Jewel B. Today's guest is an award-winning filmmaker and storyteller and the creative force behind Paris Blues in Harlem, which was featured in the PBS Online Film Festival. Her work has also been seen across major networks. She is now the author of the heartfelt children's book series Paris and Pop Pop, which celebrates legacy, love, and the Harlem community, bridging generations through art. Here with us today, she is Nadhege. I am glad that I got it right, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. I will say I had the benefit of having a childhood friend named Nadhege, who's also from IT.
Yay! So that's why, because people say Nadesh, Nadesh. I was like, Nadesh, or Nadesh. But you were spot on.
That's good. So you are the type to correct people, right? Because some people they just let people mispronounce their name.
I would say sometimes I correct, sometimes I don't. It just depends on the moment. Because
Mm.
I remember when I was in college, a childhood friend of mine who came to visit, and we were on campus, and a student who was in the same class as me was so excited to see me, and he said, "Hi, not a deji." He
Mm.
said, "Not a deji," and she fell out, like literally dropped herself on the floor and laughed so hard. But I couldn't correct him because he felt so confident in, "Hi, not a deji." And I was like, "Yeah, that's my new name." I left it alone. I didn't correct him. So it had just had more, he had confidence. And I didn't want to ruin his confidence and say, no, it's not Dej. So sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Or when I see people hesitate, I will just instantly just say my name, Nadej.
That's very real.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
Speaking of like that college experience, what would you say is your story, Nadej?
What is my story in terms of
Mm.
my journey?
Yes.
Okay, so my story began, I would say I leaped out of my mother's womb out of 7 months. So I'm a preemie baby. Took my first breath and I started dancing. So my artistic journey began with dance, but it also derailed because I come from Caribbean parents, as you said. I'm working more to say Haiti instead of Haiti. So you'll see me interchangeably say Haiti or Haiti because Haiti has the hate sound in it. So I really
Mm.
want to get into the practice of saying Haiti, the indigenous name, because it just has a better sound. And with having parents from the Caribbean, you're either a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and arts is not seen as something realistic, tangible, and that was derailed. And it was not until I still danced in college, but it wasn't my major. I majored in psychology. That was another interest of mine because I found myself in the role of the listener in my journey, whether it was my family, whether it was my friends, whether it was strangers. People would just pour out what they're going through, and I would be that listener, the person who would just absorb and just hold space for people, which had its positive and negative to it in allowing myself to just be the person to hold space for people, but yet I was holding space for myself only.
Mm.
And I majored in psychology with the hopes of, okay, I'll find who it is that I am and then help people. But I found that I was learning more about theories and knowing more about those people who came up with the theories than learning about myself. But nevertheless, it wasn't something that was lost. It's not until I decided to go to grad school and get a master's in forensic psychology. It was probably the most darkest period of my life, one of the darkest period of my life. I was not doing anything artistically. So even when I was in high school, I was involved in dance, being trained in modern ballet, and also part of the dance ensemble, also part of a Caribbean Cup, also being co-lead in choreographing. So the academics, I didn't become overwhelmed by just doing academics. I was feeding that artistic what I came here to do. And even in college, the same thing. But when I reached grad school, it was the first time where I was solely not feeding what I was designed to do. And even though it was seen as a hobby, but it fed my soul. I was strictly academics, and it was such a dark phase. And it's not until a class where we had to role play the psychological disorders, and we would have to switch between being patient and therapist, and really they were helping us to hone in looking at traits and how to diagnose. So when it was my turn to play role play, I don't recall what psychological disorder I was playing, but whatever I did, usually they'll give the feedback, okay, this might be a personality disorder, this might be bipolar. The feedback was, I need to be on stage because I need to get an Oscar for my performance. Light
Right.
bulb. Light bulb moment, like, okay, um, I need to feed my soul. So I just said the deepest prayer ever. It was my last class, and where I was going to complete my graduate degree. And I said, I promise I will return back to the arts. Took my last exam. I interviewed for a position as a forensic therapist to work in Rikers Island. I turned it down. I was consulting as a teaching artist. So I maintained that, being a freelancer. And I decided and I enrolled myself in acting school because that was another area, another talent, another interest. I just didn't have the opportunity to really explore it in high school because you have to make a decision between dance and acting because they required your full commitment. So I was able to do theater, didn't tell my family anything. And it's not until 2 years after that where I was gaining experience off Broadway, and I was gaining credits that came out in the open and like, "Here's what I do." So, that my decision to go back to what I was designed to do, to what I was gifted to do,
Mm.
that it was not going to be altered by opinions and what I should do. I did what I was designed to do, and my life began morphing into theater, then writing, because I was in a play that required me to write, where I really thought I was not a writer, and I was reviewed by one of the biggest entertainment publications for my writing and performance. So now the writing picked up. And then once I became a mom, I got married. 3 children later, I said, "Okay, I've done enough theater. I'm going to now step into film." And I became a filmmaker, and I did my first film, which was Dodo Titi. And I fundraised in Harlem looking for community support. And Samuel Hargris, who was in Paris Blues, the owner, I did a performance there for fundraising, and I went there to ask for support, and I didn't think he would remember me. He didn't really remember me. But I told him I'm fundraising for a film, and he said, pulled out $250 out of his pocket
Wow.
and gave me the cash, and he said, "Go on, Miss Hollywood." And he believed in me, and that's how the journey of Paris Blues in Harlem began, to why I did the film and now the books.
Mm, that is incredible, Nadege. Like, so what was your family's reaction when they learned that the arts was no longer a hobby?